I got lots of them. They're all different too. A baby? That line? It's not just dialogue. It's a window into something deeper. Pain, guilt, and the weight of choices no one was prepared to make. A weight that doesn't go away, even when the cameras stop rolling. Because the man behind those lines lived 1,000 lives in a single career, and every one of them left a scar. This is the story of a man who didn't just act, he exposed. A man whose face you've seen in some of the most intense, emotional scenes in cinema, but whose name often goes unsaid. A man who didn't just pretend to feel things, he felt them, and then handed them to you like a mirror. Today we trace the raw, sometimes tragic, often brilliant journey of an actor who carried pain like poetry, delivered silence like a sermon, and taught us what it means to be broken and still serve. Clarence Williams III didn't step into the world quietly. He arrived on August 21, 1939, in the heart of Harlem, a place where struggle danced with creativity and survival often wore the face of art. But while Harlem was known for birthing legends, nothing about Clarence's upbringing was romantic. It was complicated, uneven, and defined by the instability that shaped so many black families of the era. His parents' marriage fractured early. The rupture didn't just split a home, it scattered his childhood. He was passed between relatives in Harlem and the Bronx, navigating households where love was present but not always steady. In the end, it was his paternal grandmother who took the role of anchor, holding Clarence down while the world around him remained in motion. And yet, in the chaos, there was rhythm. That rhythm came from blood. His father, Clay Williams Jr., was a professional saxophonist, a man whose art was his compass. But it was his grandfather, Clarence Williams, a jazz titan from the 1920s, who cast the largest shadow. A composer, producer, and pianist who collaborated with legends like Bessie Smith and Louis Armstrong, the elder Clarence had helped build the foundation of American music. He wasn't just famous, he was foundational. His legacy whispered through records, echoed in clubs, and hummed in the back rooms of Harlem. But young Clarence didn't inherit opportunity. He inherited expectation. He wasn't born into wealth or ease. He was born into a legacy of expression, but one that came with no clear path, just the pressure to survive, and if possible, to create something meaningful along the way. What he lacked in security, he made up for in observation. He watched, he listened, he understood the weight behind words, the truth inside pauses. Long before he ever stepped onto a stage, Clarence Williams was already performing, reading rooms, learning how silence could protect you or weaponize you. It's what kept him safe, and eventually, it would be what made him unforgettable. But at that point, he didn't see acting as destiny. He didn't dream of scripts or cameras. He dreamed of a way out. And then one day, fate opened a door, literally. Coming up next, how a wrong turn in a Harlem YMCA changed everything and led Clarence straight into the spotlight he never asked for, but was born to command. Before Clarence Williams III ever learned how to deliver a line, he learned how to fall from the sky. Fresh out of high school, with no trust fund, no fallback plan, and no desire to coast on his grandfather's musical reputation, Clarence made a decision that would etch discipline into the very structure of his being. He joined the United States Army. But this wasn't just any branch. He enlisted in one of the most grueling and elite forces in the military, the 101st Airborne Division, also known as the Screaming Eagles. This wasn't symbolic service. It was sweat, steel, and silence. As a paratrooper with C Company, 5 or 6th Infantry Regiment, Clarence endured the kind of physical and mental training designed to break you down to nothing and rebuild you into someone unshakable. He jumped out of airplanes at 800 feet, carrying gear that felt heavier than his doubts. He marched until his legs were numb and learned to move as one with his unit, to trust without hesitation, and to wait without complaint. But it wasn't the parachutes or drills that stayed with him most. It was the clarity, the way every decision mattered, the way time slowed down in high-stress moments, and how staying calm could mean the difference between life and death. That quiet intensity, the slow burn behind his eyes in every performance he would give later in life, it was born here. And more than that, he learned restraint, not suppression, not avoidance. Restraint. Clarence began to understand the immense power in holding back, the kind of performance that doesn't explode, but simmers until it's unbearable. That military bearing, controlled, measured, precise, would become the foundation of his acting style. You didn't watch Clarence for loud monologues. You watched to see what he didn't say. You listened for what he didn't reveal. He didn't just survive the army. He internalized it, turned it into a compass. While Hollywood was filled with actors chasing fame, Clarence moved like a soldier, steady, focused, and always choosing his next step with care. But no matter how far the military took him, it didn't silence the artist inside. Because soon after his return, Clarence Williams would stumble into a moment of sheer coincidence, one that would redirect the course of his life. Next up, how a dim theater in Harlem, a cracked door, and a curious glance gave birth to one of the most unpredictable acting careers of his generation. He didn't walk into his destiny. He accidentally opened a door into it. After returning home from military service, Clarence Williams III wasn't rushing toward fame. He didn't even know where to begin. One day, while exploring the Harlem YMCA, looking for something, anything, that might ignite a sense of purpose, he opened the wrong door. Behind it, a blackout theater rehearsal. The stage was dark, the room silent, the actors mid-scene, lit only by the dim glow of rehearsal lights. For a man who had jumped out of airplanes and lived by military command, what he saw in that moment didn't resemble chaos. It looked like home. That was it. The transformation didn't come with applause, it came with stillness. A door, a mistake, and the sense that he had finally found where he belonged. He threw himself into theater, not for fame, but for discipline. He trained, he observed, he soaked in technique like muscle memory. The same focus that had gotten him through the army now served a different mission, the craft of acting. Clarence made his New York stage debut in The Long Dream in 1960, and though it wasn't a headliner, it was enough to get his name whispered in the right rooms. By 1963, he was appearing in Walk in Darkness, and by 1964, he had stepped into a new echelon with Double Talk. But the real thunderclap came with his performance in Slow Dance on the Killing Ground. That role didn't just announce Clarence to the theater world, it forced them to rearrange their expectations. He played a character balancing vulnerability, danger, and deep emotional trauma with such precision that it didn't feel like acting, it felt like witnessing. Critics couldn't look away. And the Tony Award nomination he received for the performance wasn't just recognition, it was a challenge to an industry that had overlooked actors like him for far too long. Clarence wasn't chasing roles, he was chasing truth. Theater gave him what film and television couldn't, time. Time to build tension, to stretch silence, to break characters down layer by layer. And he treated each performance like a mission. Exacting, complete, never phoned in. He wasn't performing to be seen, he was performing to say something, even when the lines didn't say it directly. His name started circulating beyond New York. Directors in Los Angeles began asking who this intense young actor was. His emotional precision had started to pierce through the noise. But Clarence wasn't ready to leave the stage just yet. He had more to learn, more to prove, and he knew that when the screen came calling, it had to be for something worth it. And in 1968, it came. A role that would change not only his life, but the image of black men on television. Coming up, The Mod Squad, how Clarence Williams III became an icon without raising his voice. Then came 1968, the role that changed everything. The Mod Squad, a show that rewrote the rules of TV. 3 young undercover cops, hip, edgy, and socially conscious. But the standout was Link Hayes. Clarence didn't play him like a cop. He played him like a message. At a time when black actors were either criminals or background noise, Clarence played a black man who was the system. A revolutionary idea, his cool demeanor, his calm intensity, that towering afro, it all became iconic. Link didn't yell, he didn't threaten, he watched, he listened, and when he spoke, you leaned in. The show ran for 5 seasons and turned Clarence into a cultural figure, but he didn't lean into the fame, he leaned away from it. Because the fame wasn't the goal. The truth was, Clarence's face was on magazine covers, his name was in contracts, offers poured in, but he didn't say yes to all of them. In fact, he said no to a lot. He turned down big money roles, like a lead part in 3 The Hard Way, alongside his former co-star Peggy Lipton. It would have made him richer, more famous. He said no. In a 1977 interview, he explained it simply. I refuse to perpetuate harmful stereotypes or glorify violence for the sake of a paycheck. That's not a quote, that's a manifesto. Clarence Williams III wasn't acting like he had integrity. He lived it, even when money was tight, even when he was sleeping on Bill Cosby's couch, even when Hollywood was ignoring his phone calls, and yet his career flourished. Because talent like his, it doesn't stay hidden. 1984, he stunned the world again in Purple Rain, playing Prince's broken, violent father. A man torn between art and rage, Clarence didn't act this role. He inhabited it, quiet, chaotic, unforgettable. 1993, Sugar Hill. He played Wesley Snipes' drug-addicted brother, haunted, twitching, trapped in pain. 1997, Hoodlum. He transformed into Bumpy Johnson, Harlem's infamous crime boss with intelligence and cold control. Tales from the Hood. Remember Mr. Sims, the funeral director with a taste for justice? It was horror, it was comedy, but through Clarence, it became poetry. He wasn't scared of playing villains, he was scared of playing empty. Every character had weight, every moment had meaning. Even in lighter roles, Everybody Hates Chris, Half-Baked, the Mystery Woman series on Hallmark, Clarence brought the same fire. He was married to actress Gloria Foster, the unforgettable Oracle in The Matrix. They divorced in 1984 but remained close until her passing in 2001. Later, Clarence married Kelly, a woman 37 years his junior. He also had a daughter, Jamie Phillips, but he kept his personal life private. Always. He didn't do red carpets. He didn't sell his story to tabloids. He lived simply, loved jazz, read obsessively, chose friends carefully, avoided the noise, because his life wasn't a performance. Clarence Williams III passed away on June 4, 2021, after a battle with colon cancer. He was 81. No dramatic headlines, no viral tributes, just quiet grief from those who really knew what the world had lost. Peers, directors, serious actors. They all paid respect to a man who taught them it was possible to have a long, impactful career without ever selling your soul. He never won an Oscar. But awards don't build legacies. Choices do. Clarence chose integrity. He chose restraint. He chose truth. In every performance, every role, every decision. He inspired actors like Forrest Whitaker, Jeffrey Wright, and Michael K. Williams. Men who didn't fit the Hollywood mold, but changed it anyway. Clarence Williams III wasn't just an actor. He was a standard. And even now, years after he's gone, his performances still speak. His silence still echoes. He didn't play the game. He rewrote it. If this story gave you chills, or even just made you pause, don't scroll past. Hit that like button, subscribe for more stories like this, and share this video with someone who needs to hear about a life well lived in the shadows.